Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Sangeeta Mehta and you're watching my channel, My English Magazine. This is the literature, gender and romanticism. This is the paper and the question is relationship between gender and literature. So guys, I explained to you objective, the main objective, the main objectives of the course is to provide an opportunity to research students to help students objective objective, the main objective of the course is to provide an opportunity to research students to help develop critical aptitude towards understanding relationship between Japanese society, gender and literature through systematic analysis of library and social issues, literary groups and societies, and further situating them in the broader framework of social, economic and political developments in modern Japan. With respect to gender relations, gender issue relate to how men and women are situated, vice and versa each other, as let down by social, economic, political and institutional structures. The main issues here are unequal or asymmetrical gender relations, inequality and marginalization of women under the overarching partial social order, the role of religion, family, socialization, and the institutions of marriage, land and property, ownership, and inheritance shall form themes of vital discussion with reference to traditional social and power structure in Japan. The process of social change brought about the industrialization and modernization has provided opportunities to question the traditional structures both within the family as well as outside. The emergency of a relatively liberated new woman seeking equality with men in all spheres of life created new challenges and altered gender relations significantly. This allowed for changes in the institutional and legal provisions governing family, marriage, and divorce on the one hand, and demands for. Now, the progressive era essay means pre-write topic, the impact of women on political and social reforms. Footprint, American progressive era 1880s, 1920s. Setting the scene, the progressive era was a time of extensive reformation across the United States. Outline of your arguments and supported the evidence by social change and workplace regulations. What was the progressive era? The question is, even though progressivism was sought to be changed in many ways, there many way progressivism was expressed. The first article by George Maury states that the progressives are the middle class. These people wanted a huge change in the society they lived in. They expressed this change through forming unions and industrialists. They did this because they wanted job, benefits, safer workplaces, and higher wages to support their living. Now, criticism in Othello. A modern view of feminist criticism, William Shakespeare's Othello can be analyzed from a feminist perspective. This criticism focuses on a relationship between genders, like the patterns of thoughts, behavior, values, enfranchisement, and power in relations between and within sexes. A feminist examination of the play enables us to judge the distinctive social esteems and status of women and proposes that the male-female power connections they become an integral factor in scenes of Othello impact its comprehension. I believe that the critical lens that provides modern society with the most compelling view of literature is feminist criticism, because it analyzes distrust and dissolvability among relationships, women being treated as possessions. Social issue during the Enlightenment. During the Age of Enlightenment, two major social issues were women's rights and slavery. These two issues connected to the Enlightenment because it encouraged people to think more and question how they were being treated and rebel to gain their rights. The Age of Enlightenment was a movement that started in the mid 1700s and carried on through the 18th and 19th centuries. It was the beginning of a point where people searched for answers outside of a church. It led people to ask questions about things and not always fear getting in trouble for it. The role of women during the Industrial Revolution. The women's question of the time challenged society's view of women. In this era, women started to try to find their place in the world other than their homes and male approved professions. It is said that Victorian period motivated discussion and argument about the nature and role of women and initiated change in many ways, including literature. The Industrial Revolution pushed women towards this virtuous change. Women were also forced to take on new roles during this time due to the rapid growth in the textile industry. The Gender-led theory explaining communication between men and women. One of these perspectives is analyzing communication through gender in the book. You just don't understand. Debro Tannen popularized the term gender-led to describe the way in which men and women communicate with each other. She suggested that men and women have different styles of conversing, forming two distinct dialects. In a review of Tannen's book, De Franci attributed the differing communication styles of men and women to the respective culture and in which they grow up. Because of such gender differences, misunderstanding between men and women creates a gap in the communication process. Industrial Revolution in America. This led to new opportunity for women in the United States and gave rise to campaigns to make a woman a more important part of society, which could arguably be a factor in the later women's suffrage movement. The combination of their lifestyle changes also led to new laws being created to believe it the social environment, much like what is happening today with the rapidly changing technology making current laws obsolete or overbearing. These laws led to yet more social changes and changing rules, such as in the case of child. Compare and contrast the Gilded and Progressive era. All throughout history, there have been divisions between different races and classes. However, during the Gilded and Progressive era, these rifts heightened. The Gilded Age was a time of industrial growth which brought new technologies, business, and more. Definition easy on gender. Gender is becoming a large word of conflict in society, and its use has increased in the past few years as the definition has been debated and discussed. Many people are trying to figure out what gender is and if it is as simple as a male and female, or if gender is different from sex and much topic. I personally view it as a broad word that means more than it has in the past, but that is due to the environment I have grown up in and people that have been in my life as I have started learning new things about the world. The world gender has such conflict about the definition that I feel it should be open for more discussion or have multiple definitions to make up for the variation in opinions. Max Weber's conflict theory. Feminist theory is most worried with giving a voice to women and highlighting. Summary of a sociologist takes to the streets by Jane Eddins. Imagination, It really makes sense that these situations can cause conflict of ethics because each of them cause a change in a society. For example, imagination is perfect example to that because when people move from one culture to a totally different culture and continue to behave the way they used to, then there will be a big clash. The new immigrants needs time to adjust, and a sociologist's job to help those immigrants to adjust. How can socialists help immigrant to adjust? West and Zimmerman analysis. Doing gender by West and Zimmerman is similar to Butler's performative acts and gender constitution. However, West and Zimmerman build upon the ideas that Butler puts forth. Butler because on gender as performance and how gender is made up by specific action, while West and Zimmerman take the concept of performance and constitution and applies it to a new concept, the sex category, and how sex categories and gender are intertwined in society. Sex categories and gender, according to West and Zimmerman, are different and interconnected. Discussion, leader assignment, feminist anthropology. Research is being conducted not just between a man and a woman but also individuals who fall on various stages of the spectrum in their gender identity. The emphasis has also been to include women's voice in traditionally male dominated fields within anthropology like archaeology and physical anthropology. Saller and Stockett, 2016. The current wave takes into consideration various facts of a human gender identity and are slowly incorporating the changes in the current world to the theoretical and research framework with power dynamics changing in today's globalized world. The role of a woman is no longer the same as it were in the 50s or the 60s, even though there are still hindrances. Antigone Gender Roles is essay. Antigone and the importance of the gender in ancient Greek culture. In ancient Greek, there was a social hierarchy onto which everyone fell in one category or another. There were the free and the enslaved, the Greeks and the foreigners, the rich and the poor. Gender was an important aspect in the hierarchical society in which Sophocles' Antigone takes place. The men had their roles as the leaders of society, participating in politics, law, and the military. Early modern era gender roles. Gender roles in early modern period writing. The early modern period writing concerning gender roles have a real relation to the thinking and the debate that is seen going on in today's world. Throughout time, women have been held responsible demeaned and used to further the agendas of their male counterparts. It is interesting to discover that women initially began the women's rights movement as early as the 1500s. The women's suffrage movement was what won the right to voice in 1900s. So in this way, these are the relationship between gender and literature. Now I explain everything in this, how the women gain their place in the society. So this is the main theme of this. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. You are watching my channel, My English Magazine. This is on YouTube, also on Twitter, Google, my Facebook, My English Magazine, and my blogger. Thank you very much.